So I know there's been a lot reported out there on trades and whatnot that we made today. Officially, they're still in the queue, so I can't speak to a lot of it. We don't anticipate any problems. They just got to get through the sort of the batting order here. So, in Bobby's case, subject to everything being okay, we've traded him to Seattle for 2 picks, and Scott was traded to LA for a pick here today, in addition to the move we made the other day with Nick.
Brad, why do you think you ended up in this spot where you ended up being a trader on deadline day this season?
Well, today, listen, I'll answer all the questions and take responsibility for our season. I don't look at today as the autopsy day. We've got 19 games to go. But I think there's a whole host of reasons. I'll take responsibility. We met earlier in the year through about the 20-game mark where we got off to a slow start. And again, the failures here start with me. And once we get through the end of the season, there'll be all sorts of evaluation. But to start parsing through it right now, I think, Mark, we've got games to play. But it's, there's a lot. We got off to a poor start. I look from my standpoint, some roster construction issues, lack of consistency, the ability to maintain any kind of level. There's been a whole bunch of factors, but we'll get to that in due course.
Ryan, how do you evaluate the day and maybe just the market today overall?
Yeah, it's not just today. I mean, it's leading up today. We made a decision a while ago, before the break, that we were going to be as active as we could in terms of trying to recoup some assets. Whether that be picks or prospects. This team, for a number of years, has been adding at this time of the year, and today was the day, and leading up to today was the day to try to regain some assets. And again, I know there's lots of speculation and all sorts of things out there. The market speaks. At the end of the day, we were trying to be as active as we could to obtain and acquire as many young assets as we could, and we were able to do what we were able to do.
Why do you think an Ekman-Larsson trade didn't materialize?
Why didn't an Ekman-Larsson trade didn't materialize? At the end of the day, there was some interest in Oliver to the level that I thought was required. For us to move Oliver, I don't think it was something that we could just, with term left on his contract, we required a return that I thought would be fair, and nobody met that level.
Why do you think it worked out this way for Scott Laughton, Brad? You paid a heavy price for Laughton last year. Why do you think it turned out this way for him in Toronto?
That's the market. I can't speak I can't speak highly enough about Scott Laughton. Not only his play, but he's as quality human as you're going to find. And I'll be the first one to say, last year at this time we paid a first and a young player in Grebby for him. This isn't a function of no teams knowing what we communicated with everybody, and ultimately the market dictates, right? And that's where it fell here for Scott today.
How different was this market this year with the playoff salary cap, with the no double retention, with the a lot of no move clauses, just in general? What have you seen with your herd?
Well, there's no excuse. There's no the trade protection that's there every year. Obviously, there's a couple nuances. I feel this year there was a lot more players available. There was a lot more. There was a lot more players on the market. And the retention piece. I mean, that's another area. For the first time in a long time, we've had cap space, so we were very open to being, taking on money, taking on contracts. There wasn't a lot of teams, other than one or two, that had cap issues that you normally see, right? You normally see double retention and guys trying to slot guys in. That wasn't as big a factor as it had been in the past. And then, yeah, I think there's certainly a lot of talk of how the playoff salary cap's going to come into play this year, and I think there's a lot of planning for teams leading up to it. But the biggest probably change for me is just the amount of money in the system as opposed to the most recent years.
Why do you believe Craig is still the right coach for this team?
Well, like everything else, Luke, we all take responsibility for it, and I think Craig's a terrific coach. It hasn't worked, right? So when it doesn't work, we all share a blame, and we all share responsibility in it, right? So it starts with myself, it's the coaches, it's the players. We all are partners in this thing, and when it goes poorly, we all got responsibility for it. But you know, again, to do a summation right now, I think is premature. But like everything else, we'll review at the end of the year.
No doubt.
Did you approach any of the no-move guys at all? So ask them to consider waiving or anything?
No, I think the communication with those is more at this time of the year. Just being prepared if something comes up. But we weren't, you know, we use Oliver for an example. I talked to him. He's got some trade protection, and just made him aware that, you know, as we're going through this time of year, there may be a conversation to be had, so you're preparing them, but I didn't have any conversations. There was nothing to have conversations about.
I was going to say goodbye to players, Brad, but just the idea of your group having some currency, if you will, to replenish that.
Yeah, for sure. Like everything else, you hope and wish it was more, but like I said, we're on that path if we have to collect some young assets, and today's a day to make changes. As we lead into the end of the year and into the spring and summer is another opportunity. But certainly that was a big part of today, is trying to collect as much currency as we possibly could.
Did you send anybody on paper down to the Marlies to make them call the cup?
Yes, we did.
Cowan and Quillen?
Cowan and Quillen, yes.
And do you think you'll be using some Marlies later in the year to see what they can
I would
offer?
anticipate that, yeah.
What do you want to see in these last 19 games?
I want to listen, and this isn't. We came out of the break here flat, you know, and like I said, it's important for us to find out why. I can't give you a good reason for it. It's not. You know, it's not anything we anticipated. We're pros. We're in the best league in the world. It's a privilege to play in the league, and we've got to compete as such. I understand at this time of the year. I know there's lots of. I don't question the quit in our team, and I know there'll be lots of noise around quitting and all the rest of it. It's difficult when you're in the position that we are, and reality sets in. And you know, not only how the losses have been piling up, not getting in the points, where you sit in the standings, you've got the trade deadline looming over. It's reality. They're humans, not making excuses for them. But now today's behind us, and it's our job to go out and be professionals, and that's what I expect.
The pick you sent to Boston, only top 5 protected. Why isn't it top 10 protected?
Because that's what we had to do to get the deal done last year.
Did you push for? How hard did you push for top 10?
We pushed.
How late did things go today in terms of making the deals? How late did it go, and what was it like, kind of
How late?
the deals that you got? Then you said they're still in the queue. Just how late did you end up leaving those last couple trades today, and what was it
Well,
like, kind of waiting?
Yeah, we weren't leaving anything. We were trying to, like I said, there was lots of activity of outbound calls and not a ton inbound. But it went down to the witching hour.
Bobby's trade kind of went down to the wire as well. What was the process like to land where you did on him?
Taking the best deal that was available to us, the best offer that we had.
Do you think this team would be a playoff team next year? Is that the plan?
We're going to get to that once we get through this year. Today's not the day for that. There's change that has to occur. there's changes we need to make, and but that's not for today.
But do you understand that fans might be a bit confused or in the dark about where the direction of this organization is headed next year and the year after?
Where the direction is?
Yeah, like if this is a minor reset, or if it like is.
I think it's important that we have to communicate that, right? And that's what we have to get to people once we get to the end of the year of where this team's going. You know, the purpose of today was change. Change has to occur, right? How and what that is will be determined over the coming days, but today was an opportunity for us to try as hard as we can to collect and gain as many assets as we possibly could, and then we go from there.
So you don't know the direction, you haven't ruled out the possibility of a rebuild in the
Yeah, I know everybody wants to speculate on, and we've all got, you know, the re-words, but there's got to be some change, and I think that's for us to sit down and look hard and fast at. It's been a disappointing year. You know, we can look back at a big chunk of this team and the year that they had last year, but this is this year, and you have to sit down and be real analytical. You have to be real clear, and you have to be real honest of where you're at, and at that point make some decisions.
When did you kind of know yourself that you would be a seller, not a buyer this year?
Well, you always hold out hope, but you know, there's been just so much inconsistency. You know, going back to October and November, there's been injuries. Everybody has injuries, right? So now the significant ones for us were in goal over the course of the first couple of months. Chris Tanov's been a big loss, but if you're deep enough and you're good enough, you can overcome those things. We never were able to consistently get traction, and so I've been concerned for a while, and so then you look at how do you help, right? How do you make change? And you know, we weren't about to start throwing a bunch of young assets out the door for a quick help. So we couldn't find something there, you know, earlier in the season to help us change course, but we could just never get traction. We had a stretch there, I think, you know, 9-0-1 or something in that. But outside of that, it's just been too much inconsistency. So I've been concerned for a while.
What are the conversations with ownership then? Like, there's an ownership change with this organization. I'm just wondering what the message from the top has been through this.
The ownership's been good. They're updated regularly on what's going on and keep them advised of not only what's going on, but presenting a plan moving forward. So I can't speak highly enough about how ownership's been supportive.
Callan went about a month there without playing. I'm just wondering kind of what your thoughts are on his development and how things are coming along for him.
Yeah, well, 3 weeks of it was because we had a deadline,
Right.
Or we had a break.
Right.
So he's, contrary to some of the things that I had been sent, he wasn't eligible to go down due to a number of days on roster. I think it was good for him to get a break. But as I said earlier, young players can't sit, right? Yeah. He sat a few games leading up to the break, a few games after, but Easton's going to be playing and playing a lot, whether that be here or with the Marlies. He's a young player, he's an important player, and so that's the plan for Easton. He needs to play at that age to continue to develop.
How much conversations have you had with Austin about the future of this team and the future of the organization?
Yeah, Austin and I have a lot of conversations, but a lot of our conversations are about how does the team get better, and the usual conversations you have during the year, and dealing with the challenges that you have every day. So we have lots of conversations with them. We don't get much deeper than that in terms of how we help our team and things that we can do better.